let's begin to break down materials. Long term. What is our overall intake? Okay. For me, I know I should have less intake. Okay? But like Victoria, I love to eat. Okay? I'm like, I wish they could make losing weight as much fun as eating this. Okay? But what this is saying, our body, this is sort of the brain picking up on the stores that we have, meaning nutrients that are stored, like for example the glucose and the fat stores, and then how much activity are we doing, and is this too much or too little for my body? So long term, I have a chemical. It's coming from the fat cells throughout my body, because that's what the adipocytes are. It is trying to tell the brain what is available, how much we currently have, and try to decrease it. Because one of the areas of the body, like I said before, that stores the fat first is around the organs. This actually interrupts their function. This particular hormone we have found linked to those severe cases of obesity. They have found there is a defect in the receptor, and the body is not recognizing the foodstuffs it's given. Another hormone, this time, however, you guys heard of insulin, okay? Do you happen to know anybody that has the issues with insulin? Diabetes 1, 2, insulin resistance, something that I've been looking up a lot about now. Insulin itself, okay, under normal conditions from the pancreas, okay, the goal when we eat, it gets released, go through the bloodstream to cells of the body to help them use mostly the glucose and use it properly. What we know, okay, this doesn't always occur properly. If it did, we wouldn't have diabetes, okay? We're going to find receptors in the brain very much acting like the leptin. What is the amount that's present? How much do we need? But it's a weaker effect because the goal of insulin, once it is released, the goal is for us to use the glucose. If we don't use the glucose properly, now let's stop and think about this for a second. Glucose, the only molecule the brain can use. If the body is not utilizing it correctly, it gets excreted in our urine. We've lost it, okay? And this is why it ends up being such a problem for people who don't have proper insulin and insulin working properly, okay? They may have to take insulin. They may have to do a shot. Type 1, type 2, okay? Type 2 can be just as bad as type 1, all right? It's just a multi-organ problem. It's not just one thing that goes with insulin, okay? It's multi-organ. So if we think about these hormones, This is just a graphic showing their connection between different areas of the digestive system to the brain. Overall, controlling our intake of food. Metabolism, as we have mentioned quite a few times, metabolism is the sum of all these chemical reactions. Our body does have a metabolic rate. It does vary from person to person. We do have the ability to affect it. We have the ability to test it. When we're looking at metabolic rate, we're saying what is the amount of energy produced and used by the body per unit of time. They measure this based on the amount of oxygen per minute. Why? What gives me energy in the body? ATP. How do I produce ATP? My cellular respiration. My cellular respiration uses what molecule? Oxygen. So they actually measure how much oxygen per minute. And that will give them a rate. A basal metabolic rate, usually if they test it, you're at rest. Usually about 60% is somewhere they want to see. 60% of the oxygen available. Energy being used to digest our foods, about 10% of our energy should go to that. And the rest should be used for muscle activity. So that overall, we're getting energy for all parts of the body. As we use energy, break stuff down, build stuff up, one of the things that happens in these reactions, we give off heat. Chemical reactions, you never get 100% transfer. There's always energy given off in the form of heat. In our bodies, believe it or not, with all these chemical reactions going on, our bodies are not very efficient. If we look at it based on money, for every dollar of food we give it, we get about 43% efficiency. That's less than our vehicles we drive. We're not very efficient making this energy, but that's okay. That heat energy allows us to maintain a body temperature. What's important about maintaining body temperature?
We have a pretty narrow window.
It likes to keep it in a very tight control. What else does it allow the body to do? Danielle?
Remain in a state of homeostasis.
Homeostasis. What is it that really needs temperature of the body that the cell can produce and make that needs the temperature to remain constant so that they don't denature? Proteins. We're back to our starting point. So we have now made this huge loop, getting the foodstuffs, breaking it down, getting it to the cells, letting the cells do their work, letting them make their stuff, giving off the energy so that I can keep my temperature, so that I can get the foodstuffs, take them down, break them down. I just made a nice connection for all of that. because the only product a cell can make is protein. That's it. And I got to get my foodstuffs so that I can get the energy, so that I can make the product, so that I can have the pieces to make the product. And in the process, I maintain my body temperature so that product doesn't break down, that product works correctly. Isn't that cool? So let's take a peek at the study guide for this chapter. Let's take a quick peek and make sure that we've covered the majority of the material. And if we have something we need to mark out, we will. All right, so we can now define appetite, right? Can we define a gut-brain peptide? How about short-term versus long-term?